How's things with you at the moment?
I'm good. I'm at home in Milan. We just finished a tour in North America with Butcher Babies. It was just a quick run of like almost 3 weeks that we built around the festival we had to play in North America. And now we're home. We're preparing for a live show that is going to happen next Saturday, the 15th of October in Milan, which is a show about the new record, Comalies XX, which is the 20th anniversary version of the original album Comalies that came out in 2002.
Yep.
And so we're going to play the whole album on that show. It's a unique show that we're preparing. And so we're rehearsing all the songs and preparing everything around the show.
Okay, cool. Before we get into the anniversary of that album, how does it feel to actually be back touring again? Because obviously the last couple of years has been really rough for bands like yourself. So how does it feel?
It feels great because, as you say, the pandemic was something so unexpected and weird for everybody that in the beginning, it was almost like we were almost fine because we stay home and we never get to stay home for so long with our families. So I don't want to say we enjoyed, but we kind of had time to do other things that we normally don't do. But then in the second year on the pandemic, it was getting weird and we didn't know where and when, if it was restarting again. And so you got scared. And now that we've been able to come back, we started touring in April, May this year with Apocalyptica in North America. And then we've been able to do all the summer festivals in Europe and this tour with Butcher Babies. And now we seems to be able to finally come back again into Southeast Asia, Australia and Japan. And so it feels great that an almost normal life as it used to be, or something like that, as close as that as possible.
Yeah. I've asked this numerous times with other bands as well. And the one thing that I've sort of gotten from everyone during this last 2 years is that everyone seems more grateful for being in the band now. Do you kind of feel that way as well?
Yeah, I think from the band, but also from the fans. A lot of fans, they really appreciate the fact that they are able again to go to a concert. Something that they've been maybe given for granted for many years. Now it's special, especially the first tour we've done in North America. The people was crazy supporting the band by buying all the merchandise. We never sold so much merchandise in our shows. And they were coming out and singing every song. They appreciate more the fact that now they have the chance to do it again. And for us, obviously, it's been great and relieving to restart doing things. Although we've tried to keep busy also during the pandemic, but not so much with like recording or writing because we really felt very blank during the pandemic. We really had no inspiration because it was such a surreal situation, and we get most of our inspiration from touring, meeting people, hanging out, listening to other bands, finding out about new bands. So that's where we got the inspiration when we then sit down and go working on new music, at least for some of the music. And so it was weird. We had no inputs to those during those 2 years to create new music.
So obviously celebrating 20 years of Comalies. So what then sparked the idea to kind of go in and re-record these songs again?
Basically, we knew that the 20th anniversary was coming, but we got offered from the label to do the classic remaster of the record, which basically a remaster consists of taking the files, compress them, and makes the record sound louder. That's all a remaster basically does, more or less. And so that we didn't think it was such a enthusiastic thing to do, so we just rather do something more experimental and take the songs, deconstruct them, and adapt them to the current lineup of the band, to the current sound of the band, and make them sound and see how they would sound with this approach. We'd bring in the record into 2022. And in the end, we were really happy with the result, and it was something challenging for us, challenging for the fans as well, because obviously when you're gonna touch some holy ground, like going to touch some records that have been your masterpiece or whatever you want to call it, a staple record, it's always risky because obviously people is gonna hate it because it's a record they discovered the band with, and some other people's gonna love it because they never got to know Comalies. They found out about the band later on in the career. So it was an experiment, and it is what it is. And we decided to do like on the physical CD, we decided to put the new version and the original version as well. Just cool. to and also the artworks, there's the new one and the classic one, because we wanted to show that it's a celebration of this work. You know, it's not just, okay, let's erase the past, forgetting and didn't exist, and now we go to move on. No, it was something more like to celebrate the record and do something more challenging and interesting for us. Actually, working on these versions of the song also made us found more about going back and listen how we were doing things back then, you know, how we were creating melodies, how we were working arrangements. And especially because Comalies, the original, was recorded on tape, on an analog tape. And so we didn't have the files of the single tracks separated. So we had to listen carefully to the original master and try to figure out what we were doing. Yeah. And so it's been a very interesting experiment, you know, and very, also, I think we're going to take some of this inspiration also in the future. In the next record we're going to do, we can try to bring some of that those atmosphere from the past into the new version of Lacuna Coil, let's say.
Well, obviously, it's a great and iconic album, a landmark release. A lot of people kind of feel there's some of your best work. But just for you personally, when you look back on that album now, and especially now that you've sort of re-recorded and done these songs again, did you find that there was anything when you're looking at the album, the original version, that you wanted to maybe, especially after all these years, you know, did you kind of feel there was anything you maybe wanted to change, fix up? Was there anything at all that you weren't maybe happy with the original version at all?
No, I mean, there is always something, you know, there's always a little bit of things that a musician would always change. You know, for a musician, the record would never be done. You know, you always you could always do a little bit better sound, better arrangement, better vocals, whatever. But I don't think, we're not looking at that. You know, we don't want to change the past. It's like, I think Comalies was perfect for 2002 when we recorded it, where our abilities were those and our knowledge was those and our way of creating and forge our own sound took that path to develop into what we are now, you know. So I wouldn't change anything from the past, you know. What we did now is obviously we take a complete different approach, and the approach we have now, the experience we have now, the sound we have now, the tastes that we have now, and we brought those ideas into this more contemporary approach. But not to change what was done, but just to see how today we would face the same challenges we had back then, you know. Yeah. So that was the most interesting. I think the most difficult thing when we did this was to understand the line, you know, the limit to don't pass, to change too much the songs, you know, to go and, okay, this song is nothing like it was anymore, you know. So there was a thin line of understanding where to stop, where you change enough the song, where you haven't changed enough the song. And so that was the most difficult part, to understand the limits you could use.
And what about, like, obviously you've played some of these songs quite a lot over the years as well. Did you think about that at all? Like how you were playing it live when you sort of went in to re-record these songs?
Yeah, of course. Yes. And I think some songs we will always have to play both versions. You know, sometimes you can play one, sometimes you can play the other one, especially songs like Heaven's a Lie or I mean, Swamp maybe is not so different one to each other, but some songs will be on the new version, maybe especially the ones we haven't played as much from the past. It would be fun to bring them with this new version so they would appeal better to the set list, and even the people that never grow up with Comalies could still appreciate them more than the original version. Maybe that now it's way different, you know, because of the years. And so some songs made sense to still play them in the original version. Some other would be fun to play in the new version, and we can have some extra songs to add to the set list that normally we wouldn't have brought back because they wouldn't make sense so much anymore. You know?
Yeah. You know, looking back at that album as well, were you surprised, or were you kind of expecting that album to do what it did as far as success and all that kind of stuff?
No, absolutely not, because obviously we were this little gothic metal band from Italy. We signed a deal with Century Media, and it was already an unexpected thing, because there weren't many bands from Italy in the end of the 90s that were getting popular. There were very few, so we were very surprised already by signing the contract with Century Media. So when we reached we always had our stable growth, like the first record and the second one a little better. And even Comalies, when it came out, it really did much better than the previous one, but not in the very beginning. In the very beginning, we had sort of a constant growth from the previous record, starting to get the first cover stories from magazines in Europe, but it wasn't exploded yet. The real explosion is happening in the beginning of in 2003, when, like 1 year after the release, when in America, one radio in Boston picked up Heaven's a Lie as a single and decided to play it. This radio is called WAAF, and it's always been a trendsetter for rock radios in America. It was like the radio that launched bands like Stained and many other bands in America. And so we were very surprised that they were picked up Heaven's a Lie, because for us it was more of a gothic metal song, not really a radio song.
Yeah.
But it started from there, and then from one radio we arrived into we end up with like over 100 radios playing the songs all over America. And then we've been on tour with Opeth, then we've been on tour with Type O Negative and Anthrax, and then the next summer we've been on tour with MTV requested the video for Heaven's a Lie for debuted it at Bangers Ball on Saturday night all over America. And then we got called by POD on tour, and then the Odds Fest 2004. So everything kind of snowballed into a huge thing, you know. So it was completely unexpected for us and way beyond our imagination when we signed the deal, you know.
Yeah, well, as I said, it's a massive album, and certainly one that a lot of us have been a big fan of since the beginning, you know, when we first heard it. Now, moving on from that, though, because I do have to touch on your appearances down in Australia as well, because it's part of the Good Things Festival. Great to see you back in Australia again. When was the last time you were down in our country?
I believe it was 2016 on a headliner tour. We did a headliner tour for the first time because previously we've been there with the Soundwave Festival, very first time. And then the second time we came with Megadeth on the Gigant tour with Megadeth, Static X, Meteorites, and Devil Driver. And then the last time was 2016 headlining for the Delirium album cycle. So this is going to be our fourth time, and we're very excited because we were meant to come already 3 years ago, basically, when the pandemic started. We had to cancel. The first tour we had to cancel was the Southeast Asia, Australia, Japan tour. Was the first one we had to cancel because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And so we're really happy. We're really glad that finally we've been able to do it again, even if in a slightly different shape. But at least we can come back and play the songs for Comalies, but also from Black Anima, the last record that we haven't been able to promote live at all in Australia and all that part of the world.
Yeah. So will you be focusing a bit more on the Comalies album then? Like as far as the set list, what have you been sort of focusing on this tour?
Obviously, we will depend a lot on the length of the set list, but we're going to play for sure some of the Black Anima that we haven't played at all.
Sure. A
couple of the Comalies for sure as well, but maybe also a couple of the classic songs because we haven't been, so we need to play a little bit of everything. You know, we can't only do a Comalies set or only Black Anima set. We need to bring a little bit of everything. So it's going to be, as I say, mostly obviously Black Anima and maybe a couple of the Comalies, and then the rest is going to be classic Lacuna Coil songs.
Awesome. So do you have any words for the Aussie fans before you come down to Australia then?
Yeah, we're really, really happy to come back in a beautiful country. And obviously, we're looking forward to play finally the songs that are holding for 3 years and to let you listen to the songs live. And it's going to be fun. I mean, the festival has a great lineup, very mixed, very different band like Bring Me the Horizon, Deftones, No Effects, Ginger. Like there's a lot of Sabaton, like a lot of cool, different band style of bands. So it's going to be fun, and we can't wait to be there, obviously.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on 20 years of Comalies. It's amazing that much time has gone past. Can you believe 20 years?
Oh, yeah. No, not at all, man, because it really, we did so many things that we never really stopped and look back so much, you know. So this album gave us the chance to finally stop for a second. Or even the pandemic obviously let us did that, to kind of go back and look more on what you did. It never happened for us to stop for such a long time, and so we never had the time to go back, and time flies, man.
Yeah, well, congratulations again, and we'll see you in Australia in December. So thanks for your time, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and see you soon.